Now, as you know, we're looking at dandelions that contain rubber. You're all familiar with the common dandelion, which we have in this pot here. Now, this plant makes some latex, but it doesn't have any rubber in it. So we don't want this one. Please do not bring me your garden dandelions. But if we compare this plant to the rubber dandelions, you can see that the color of the leaves is very different. Ours are blue-green, whereas this is a yellow-green. The flowers and seed heads are smaller. So here's the rubber dandelion seed head. Here's the common dandelion seed head. And then the flowers too. You can see there's a little bit difference in color, and there's also a difference in size. So this is the one that we don't want. Now, this is a very aggressive weed, as you know. So there is the question, will this become an aggressive weed? Now, what we have here, what Ben has selected here, is naturally occurring herbicide resistance. This is a major thing that we have to have for the crop, because how do you kill the dandelions without killing the dandelions? So we must have herbicide resistance. This is a pretty weak plant compared with our regular Ohio weeds, and we all know what those look like. So they have been selecting in the field for herbicide resistance and in the greenhouse. You see these plants are very healthy, but these have survived 2 times the normal rate of conventional herbicides that are used in a field application. So we definitely have some resistance here. We're also taking molecular approaches to increase the herbicide resistance of this species. Now, another question that is often asked is, okay, if we put herbicide resistance in this plant, will we transfer that herbicide resistance to the common dandelion? Well, we've done a lot of work on that, and the answer to that is no. This plant is a diploid, a sexual diploid, just like people. It needs a boy and a girl, and then it can make seed. Now, the common dandelion is just a girl. Okay, it can make pollen, but it makes seed all by itself. It will not accept the pollen from the rubber dandelion. So even if we have herbicide resistance in this plant, we cannot transfer that into the common dandelion species. There's a lot of domestication traits that we want to introduce into our dandelion. For example, large size, high rubber yield, and in this bench, it's our taproot study. Our normal plants are multiple roots, sometimes with many more roots than this particular one, but a carrot started its life in this way centuries and centuries ago, and it was bred to be a single taproot, which is much easier to pull out of the ground. When you harvest this in the field, it's very easy to break these thin roots off, and then you've lost your yield. So in this bench here, Sarah's been doing crosses, so to get the next generation, taproot by taproot, and also maintaining the health of these plants. One of the things with greenhouse, we put all of our valuable material in the greenhouse, but it's also more prone to disease than plants out in the field. So we have to keep dead leaves off the plants, make sure that we keep disease control very tight. Now, one of the things that we want to do is increase plant size and vigor. By and large, this plant is not a strong competitor in the field. One of the ways to do that is by increasing the chromosome complement number. Remember I said our little dandelions are diploids like humans are. However, many of the crops that we have in the grocery store, for example, like strawberries, are not the original diploid, which is a very small strawberry. The strawberry you eat is actually an octoploid, which is 8 sets of chromosomes. Now, what we've been doing here is actually using colchicine to make our dandelions into tetraploids. And so these plants here now have 4 sets of chromosomes instead of 2. With all those additional DNA encoded instructions, they grow considerably bigger. So these are quite young plants, but they're already very large. And they already, as 4-month-olds, have as much rubber in them as a 9-month-old diploid does. So this is a very promising approach. And we're making a lot more of these as we go along. Now, as you can see, we have various different domestication traits, and we see improvement in these. But when we have a special plant, we want to be able to keep that special plant. We want to make as many replicates of it as we can. And we do that by doing root cloning. Now, this is just a regular root. I'm not saying this is a special one we're going to keep. But what you do is you then cut these root pieces into about 1-inch sections or 2-centimeter sections. And then remembering which way is up, you then plant them directly into vermiculite in these little transplant trays like this. And then because it's a dandelion, it shares in common with the common dandelion that annoying trait that prevents you getting your dandelions out of your lawn, which is you cut the top off and it just grows a new top from its roots. In these two trays, we have tetraploid clones that we've just started in this tray, and over here we have diploid clones. And you can see this same method works very well whether you have 2 sets of chromosomes or whether you have 4 sets of chromosomes. And then this is very useful to us because, as you can see here, we've got all these root clones growing their tops back on. And these are ready to actually put back into pots here so that we can have clonal material instead of this highly genetically diverse individual material. We have 6 of these greenhouses, and these are used to scale up seed for field production. So what we see here are these are all progeny of plants that were selected from the field to be large, and we screened them in the lab and found that they had high rubber. So those plants were all hybridized, and then these are the progeny of that population. So these should have higher rubber on average than the plants that are just the ones we started with. So here we have bee-assisted fertilization between these diploid outbreeding plants. And what we do when we collect the seed, when all of these flowers have created seed, we vacuum them off. But here you can see some early ones. So here is a flower with some seed here. Now, all this fluff, what do you do with that? Fortunately, we have seed cleaning equipment where we take this seed off and then it's in effect threshed and all of the fluff is blown away. Now that leaves us with some nice healthy looking seed, which is very small. So anyway, so here we've got a few seed in my hand that no longer have their parachutes on, but see how small they are. There's about 1 million to 1 pound, so they're tiny. And they're a funny shape, they're like little pencils. So these are very difficult to plant if you are a farmer trying to plant these. Your regular equipment isn't going to do that. So we work with Germain's seed technology in Gilroy, California, and they take these seed and they prime them so they'll all germinate at the same time, and most of them will germinate, and then they pelletize them. Now, pelletized seed is like this. So inside each of these is one of those seeds. And these have got root boosters, germination enhancers, and these red ones have also got a fungicide in them to try and inhibit damping off in the field. So this is what gets planted, and we've had millions and millions of these seed made and put into the field. But these seed come from here, not from the open field. With 6 greenhouses with all of these raised beds, you can imagine how difficult this would be for anybody to keep all of these watered. So we have got installed in here a drip system in all of the beds. The other thing that is interesting in this particular bed, you could see the diversity of the dandelions. So we have, just looking from one plant to another, there's some that look highly distinctive that are very different from each other. This one is particularly as remarkable. But what we do not yet know is if high rubber associates with a particular phenotype. Why I like this one is a spreading rosette like this will create better ground cover and better weed control than a more upright variety. You can see we do have weeds in here, which are regularly pulled out by the greenhouse technician who looks after these. And she does a very good job, as you can see.